Okay, guys. Hey, this is Nufo-san. I'm sharing something that I don't know if anyone's gonna actually be interested in. Um, but as I get older, I find myself looking back at things I did when I was younger and just kind of wanting to share them. I guess not necessarily because I think they're like marketable or something I would want to like try to do anything with per se, but just because like I spent a lot of time making stuff when I was a kid. I've always been really into like creativity, and basically anytime I was into something, into a genre, into a medium, I would try to do my own take on it. That happened a lot when I was growing up, and this is one of those things. If you can't tell, looking at the cover of this folder, and it's a pretty big little folder here, this is my superhero universe in the vein of Marvel and DC. That I worked on pretty much my entire childhood. Like the oldest characters in here, this character right here specifically, date back to my elementary school days. I remember drawing. This character's named Iceberg, and the first version of him looked a lot more like Wolverine. Like if you can picture a cross between Wolverine and Iceman. Um, and I'll talk about more of them, but he was like one of the first superhero characters I had. I had several, but of them, he's probably the only one that's still like in like this folder. But basically, what I would do from elementary school on through middle school and junior high and high school, and even a couple after I graduated, is I would just draw superhero characters, and I would come up with backstories for them. And the plan was, when I was a kid, would be to release serialized short stories that would function similar to like issues of a comic book, except I wouldn't have to draw out all the comic pages, because I knew I had way too many stories to ever tell them all in a proper comic format by myself. I would need, a company the size of Marvel or DC to do it, and obviously I didn't have that. But I thought I could do short stories and maybe publish them. At first, when I was really young, I thought maybe I could publish them to a magazine or publish them as like a collection, like all the adventures of this character, and then it'd be like 10 short stories or something, I don't know. And then as I got older, I started thinking maybe I could do them in like a blog, release the short stories that way, and then eventually I just kind of lost interest. I did write some short stories, and I don't think those stories particularly stand up well. Like I would do them a lot differently now. But I did try. I tried making, I was going to draw like comic book style covers for each story and release them on like a blog. It would be like, you'd have the cover as at the top of the blog post and the full story beneath it. And I thought maybe I could take those to like self-publishing on Amazon or on like Patreon or something like that. This was all towards the end. But then other pursuits of mine started taking off, and I just kind of dropped off on it. And it's been a few years since I've even really thought about this. But I started thinking about it kind of randomly recently, and I thought, you know what, I'll share it. I'll get the ideas out there. I don't know if anyone will be interested in this, but if you are, this will probably be a multi-part series, because like I showed you, this is a big folder. But I don't know, I think it's interesting, and hopefully some other people will at least be curious about like the kind of stuff that I made at the time. So what I'm just going to do is just go through the different drawings I did and talk about each character as much as I can remember, and I'll break it up. I'm going to start a timer here in a minute. This part won't be part of it, but each one's I'm going to talk about them probably around 20 minutes, and then I'll just stop and pick up where I left off in the next installment, whenever that might be. So for now, I'll just go ahead and start a timer, and then we'll get started. Okay, so we open it up. First of all, there's a bunch of papers on the side over here. I'm not going to go through all of them, but some of like this is this here. I don't know if you guys can read it, but it's just a list of teams and who's on the teams. And I have a bunch of blank pieces of paper, and I think that's really all that's there. So the way this is organized is alphabetically, heroes at the front, and then villains after at the back. So this is going to be in alphabetical order, and I'll just talk about however much I can remember about each of them. So the first one here is Animal Girl. I should mention when I drew these, especially the stretch when I was in like junior high and high school, I was real bad to just recreate drawings from like my DC Comics encyclopedia or from comic books I had, and just like basically rip off the pose and the just the general look of the drawings. So if you see familiar drawings in here, that's why I have no problem admitting that, yeah, I did definitely. They weren't like traced, but they might as well have been, because I was trying so hard to replicate them. So and I don't remember what most of them were originally. Some of them were pretty obvious, but this drawing here, Animal Girl, I don't remember a ton about her. I think she was going to be in like a European, like a European Union superhero group. There was going to be a bunch of different characters from different countries in that area. I don't remember specifically what country she was supposed to be from. The main thing I remember about her was that she was going to have, like, she was going to be an active superhero outside of the stories, but her main superhero thing would not have made for good stories by itself. Her power is that she can, she's basically an animorph. She can absorb the DNA of animals that she touches and then turn into them. I'm not claiming that a lot of these were original, but she was basically an animorph, and but instead of fighting aliens like they did, what she would do would be to become like rare or endangered animals, and then use that as a way to catch poachers in the act. So she was like an animal rights type activist. She would work largely in like Africa or places like that where there would be poaching problems, and she would catch poachers. And then basically she would be like, her introduction would be like she would have just finished doing one of those, and since there wouldn't be, I didn't think there was a lot of room for stories focused solely on her, but basically she would have been doing one of those, and then the team would have come in and like recruited her, and then she would have taken on more like a Beast Boy type role in the larger group, and that's basically it. She was just going to be a member. That's actually what the team I was talking about was actually this paper I pulled out earlier. I think, yeah, Operation Hope was going to be like a large superhero team that was broken up into smaller ones, and I think she's on here somewhere. Yeah, Animal Girl. She's listed as fifth man as her role in the Omega unit. There's an Alpha, Beta, and Omega unit of the Operation Hope. I'm not going to pull that out every time I cross one of them. I just remembered that this paper was for that superhero team that was going to be like a really large team. So moving on, I need to, I guess, move this around. I can't see the way it's framed here. Maybe I can, hold on. Okay, there we go. Now I can see. I don't know why I didn't have it set up properly before, but there. So this is Asuka. She's also on that list. She's in relation to the wrestler. This was well before that, but now that I look at it, like I would think this was a ripoff of the WWE performer Asuka if I didn't draw this about 10 or 15 years ago. But basically, her thing was that she was a Japanese superhero, and she was just a bruiser. I don't remember much about her story, like character-wise or powers-wise. Or no, I remember her powers. I don't remember like her characters or origin story. Her power was that she was super strong and basically indestructible. So she was just kind of like a brick that would just run through things in that capacity. But there's not too much to talk about her there. She was a character designed for a team, just like Animal Girl was the same team. She was just going to play the power role there. Next here, this is the Avenger. Just the Avenger. Originally, when I was really young, he was one of my early characters. He was called the Purple Avenger, and he had like a purple bodysuit. I don't remember if I was still considering his outfit as purple at the time, but he was basically he was the victim of some kind of like gang or mafia type experimentation. In this universe, most of the superpowers came about through an alien rock that I'll probably talk about several times, but there's like an alien element that grants superpowers once it's discovered. It comes from space, and it was just a writing device, so it served a similar purpose like mutants in the Marvel comic, where I wanted to have something that worked the way radiation did in like classic comics, but something that wasn't radiation, because we know how radiation works. So most of the superheroes got their powers that way. He was different. He was, I I think he was just like a vagrant or something. I don't remember what he was before this, but he was abducted by this like mafia type group that wanted to create their own superheroes and were looking into ways that they could do it that didn't involve like getting their hands on this rare alien material. So they subjected him to a lot of experiments. Actually, now that I think about it, it's kind of like how Deadpool's origin is portrayed in the live action film with Ryan Reynolds. Again, this predates that, but I think it was kind of similar to that, where like this criminal organization got him and they did these experiments. He didn't become Deadpool. Basically, he became, like super strong and fast and stuff, but not on like an extreme level, but enough so that he could like, he was more powerful and athletic than your typical normal human would be, but not quite at the same level as somebody who had the Reglanium, the alien element. But then, of course, he would escape them, and then his story was mostly about exacting revenge and dismantling that criminal organization. And then after that, I think he had further stories. But his main story was focused on that and avenging himself, basically, which is where the name comes from. Moving on here, Bang Man. This is a Jamaican character. I don't think there's a lot to him. Like, he looks like Static Shock here, but he was actually based off of... This one actually was based off of a wrestler. He was inspired by the early version of Kofi Kingston, or more specifically his theme song. I listened to his theme song, and it was about a guy who would hear people calling for help and then going to help them. And it sounded like the superhero thing, but it was very, Jamaican themed, and was trying to sound very like Islander Jamaican style. So I thought that would be cool to have like a Jamaican superhero. His power was some kind of like jump based power. Like, I think he would jump, and he would jump very high and far, but he would also do it with like an impact, so that like he could, like if he was surrounded by bad guys, he would jump up and then that would knock them all away. Was the basic idea there. But I didn't have a lot for him. It was just like a song I heard, and I thought I could make a superhero like that, and then I was going to flesh it out more when the time came to actually start writing stories for him. And that's true for a lot of these characters. I just had like a basic starting point, and then was planning to flesh them out more when I was actually in the process of writing and creating stories for them. But yeah, that was basically his deal. Blackhawk here was not going to be a major character. He was basically just like a secret agent character, like a Nick Fury type. This is why he has like a kind of generic name like Blackhawk. This drawing, I actually recognize this. This drawing is based off a picture of Arsenal from The Outsiders. But he was a secret agent, and he would play into other characters' stories, but he wasn't really like a starring character. So there's not much to him other than just that he was somebody created to fill a role in stories. He didn't have any powers or anything, but he had a gun, so that's good for him. This is Black Zero. This character was Blackhawk's partner, and I feel like I had some kind of story with them, like they weren't going to be like partners within the stories they appeared in, but I can't remember the details beyond that. Just that they had some kind of split, but like neither of them were villains, but they weren't together anymore. And I think Black Zero, the more I think about it, I think Black Zero was like a renegade, like he split off from the government, and then Blackhawk was like trying to like get him back or something. I don't really remember a lot of the details about these characters specifically, because I didn't find them particularly interesting for obvious reasons. They were just like spies, which is fine in its own genre, but within the superhero world, spies become a bit mundane. Speaking of mundane, though, this is Bob Chaser. He didn't have a code name or handle, and he wasn't going to be like a traditional superhero. I wanted him to be kind of like this wasn't the idea at the time, but kind of like how Luke Cage is presented a lot of the time, but instead of being like a fighter for like in like Harlem or wherever Luke Cage is usually set up, he was going to be more like a redneck version. The idea was basically that he was like a blue collar guy who through like some kind of accident at work or doing a job or something, was exposed to Viglanium and basically became indestructible. He doesn't have super strength or anything, but he can't be hurt at all. And like that, but he didn't want to be like a superhero or a costume character. But it also caused him problems at like in his like small town. Even though it was a very useful skill, it, you know, small towns can be kind of exclusionary when it comes to people who are different. And so the idea was that he would just become like a wanderer and would just kind of wander around in like kind of like an Ozark Gothic type setting, and he would just go to like different places and have these isolated serial type adventures wandering around in like the Ozarks or the Deep South or places like that, and just get into different things, but not really have his own ongoing story. There might, if I did it now, there would be some kind of ongoing character development started from when he started up to the end of his adventures or whatever. But that was the basic idea with him. I thought, when I made him, I thought he was going to be really cool, and then I kind of forgot about him after a month. So I didn't make up a lot of stories for him or anything, but I had that premise, and maybe I would have used that if I had actually gotten this off the ground, but I don't know. Moving on. Bones. Okay. Bones here was, I think she was another victim of an experiment. She had a partner who was also her lover, and I'll get to her eventually. I don't remember her name, but she's a lot further back in the heroes category. But they were both just like teen runaways, and they were, I don't know, maybe it was even the same group that experimented on the Avenger, but they were going to get their powers through this experimentation, and in their case it wasn't an exposure to Viglanium, it wasn't just other types of experiments. So the idea was, for her powers, was that she could she could duplicate her bones, basically, and how that would happen. I think I've seen this done in comics, but I can't remember a specific character. But like if she like grow an extra arm out of her or an extra bone out of her forearm, and she would like rip it from her skin. And the idea was that it was painful, but she could create a variety of weapons that way. The more I think about it now, it seems like it would be more. It wouldn't be worth it. It seems like it would be more pain and trouble than it would be worth to be able to grow these bones. But at the time, I thought it was a cool idea. I guess because it was kind of gruesome, and I was a teenager, so I thought that was neat. And that was basically it. But she would do that, and she, like I said, she had a partner. I don't remember for sure who her partner is, but hopefully when I come across her, I'll remember and be like, oh yeah, this is Bones' partner. So we'll see about when I get to that. This is Captain Amazing. You can see he's got a patch here that says SHA, that's the Superheroes of America. And I'm kind of glad he's the first one alphabetically out of the group, because he's also the leader. But the Superheroes of America were a government-funded superhero group, and they're in the heroes category, like, on a technicality, but they weren't ever going to be presented as, like, real heroes. They're, like, on a government salary, they do what the president wants, and the idea was that they would be pretty amoral and operate more like a rogue police force almost, but with superpowers. But the idea also with them is that they would consciously be parallels to major characters from Marvel and DC. So every member of that team is pretty clearly a parallel to somebody. Captain Amazing, of course, is Captain America. And his powers aren't Viglanium based. Most of the superheroes of America weren't. His were created with a special serum that was created by another character, who I think is in here somewhere. I don't remember. In my memory, the character I'm thinking of might have been like a new origin story for the Avenger, or it might be different. But basically, before Viglanium, there was only one real superhero who I'll get to much later because he's in the S's. But one of his stories was going to involve protecting a scientist who was developing a way to create superpowers that didn't involve Viglanium because Viglanium hadn't been discovered yet. And by the time he perfected that, Viglanium had been discovered, and his process was far too expensive, so the government said, we're not going to use this. But they basically lied, and they used it once, and that was to create Captain Amazing. But he's basically, like I said, he's Captain America, but without the shield, so he's got the same powers. The process gives you the ability to process light faster. This was based off an article I read at the time, but it was basically the idea that you could modify the human eye to see things and process them faster, and that would make things seem like they're moving in slow motion. So he has amazing reflexes, because to him he can perceive things happening and process them a lot faster than people. He's incredibly strong and athletic, and again, a lot like the Avenger, which is why I'm thinking I might have redone the Avengers origin story to be this one at some point. The one I told you with the gang was definitely his original story, but I might have changed it. I don't remember. Or I might just be confusing with another character, and I'll remember when we get to him. We'll see. But basically, that was Captain Amazing. He's a jerk. All of the members of the Superheroes of America are kind of jerks. They're all they all have bully personalities, and Captain Amazing especially he's a soldier, but he's very much more along the lines of like in an actual Captain America story, it'd be like the character that was like bullying Captain America before he became Captain America, like bullying Steve Rogers, or he's got like a very drill sergeant type approach. So is him. He's not supposed to be likable, which is why he kind of looks like a jerk there. And he led the Supers of America, who we'll see more of later. Okay, this is the Changeling. Now, I'm trying to remember for sure, because I'm not positive about some of the aspects of this character. And I actually don't remember that much about him. I think he was part of a superhero team, which is probably why I don't have a strong recollection of like even really what his powers are. Like, he's got this cape that's coming up around him, but I don't know what his deal is. He looks like a male Raven to me, so maybe it was something like that. But he had something going on. I wish I had more to say about this character, but I just don't remember anything about him. So I probably had a design in mind, and then I wasn't really sure about where to go with it from there. But I think he had some kind of like shape-shifting powers, probably, if I called him Changeling. But yeah, we'll move on. Copy here. This is a character that I had a power I wanted to make a character for, and that was it. He didn't have an origin story or like a personality or anything. I think he was supposed to be like a wisecracker, judging from how I drew him. But basically, he made copies of himself. He was somebody that could multiply, but I didn't think about the character beyond that. So it's a little strange I put him in the hero category, because if I had powers and nothing else, you would think I would just make him a villain and then flesh him out whenever he fought a hero, but that for whatever reason, that's not what I did here. So sorry that these two here are so boring, but we'll move on. Oh, Cybernetica. I'm trying to remember. Cybernetica might have been Bones' partner. I'm not sure. No, I don't think so. I don't think I actually had too much for her. I wanted a cyborg character, and so she's got this robot arm and robot leg, and they're super powered. The rest of her is not. And I don't think I had a lot else for her. She might have been part of the Operation Hope team that I was talking about before, that Animal Girl was a member of. But she's a cyborg. That's her thing. Her name's Cybernetica. She was African American, and that's all I remember about her. Moving on, Dakin here, or maybe it was, no, Dakin I think is the right pronunciation. This is just an assassin character, but like a noble one, sort of along the lines of like an Elektra. She's got these like energy swords here that she uses, but she wasn't. I think she was like based off of a Batman Beyond episode where there was an assassin that tried to kill Batman, and then she ended up being on the run from the Assassin League because she failed, and I think that was basically Dakin's origin story. She was another character that would more pop up in other people's stories rather than have her own ongoing narrative, although her appearances probably would have been connected in some way. especially if she was on the run from some League of Assassins type deal. But I'm looking at my time, and it looks like we're hitting about the point where I wanted to stop. So we're going to stop here on Dakin, and we'll pick up with the next page in the next video. I don't want to do them all because like we're only on the DA in the heroes. Remembering that they're in alphabetical order, we just started the Ds, so this will take a while, and I don't want to do it all at once. I would die. If you guys found this interesting, though, come back to wherever you found this video. There should be another one eventually. I'm planning to post this on Tumblr, so you can follow my Tumblr. And you'll see a new episode whenever it comes out if you're curious about the rest of these. Because I haven't gotten to any of my like really favorite characters yet, but hopefully you guys find this as interesting as I do. It's fun for me to reminisce a bit about these, even though I'm not especially proud of them, and I would definitely do these differently if I were to pick up and try to do something like this again now. That's just part of getting older. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I will hopefully see you guys later. Bye.